Hi, it's Rhonda with two great movies and the best of 1993. Next on USA Up, 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 all night.
The 80s defined late-night cable with USA Up All Night, where Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shear hosted movies that regular TV wouldn't touch. Vampires hunted virgins, scientists built monsters from hookers, and killer robots stalked shopping malls while your parents slept upstairs, completely unaware you were getting a very different education down in the basement. Once Bitten dropped Jim Carrey into his first leading role as Mark Kendall, this awkward Los Angeles teenager whose virginity becomes the target of a 400-year-old vampire, played by Lauren Hutton. Mark's girlfriend Robin wants their first time to be special and keeps saying no, so his idiot friends drag him to a Hollywood nightclub, where the Countess spots him like a shark smelling blood in the water. She seduces him back to her mansion and bites his inner thigh in a scene that definitely made teenagers rewind their VHS tapes multiple times. Carrey spent the entire shoot treating Mark's transformation like a full-body workout, contorting himself through scenes where he's dodging sunlight and craving raw meat. The dude was collapsing and flailing through takes under hot lights until he was physically drained, learning to pace his rubber-faced performances across long shooting days instead of just sketch-length bursts. Lauren Hutton walked into playing the Countess knowing she was stepping into a satire about Hollywood's obsession with staying young forever. She projected sleek dominance in carefully styled outfits while delivering lines that treated virginal men like disposable resources, calibrating how sensual or comedic each bite should be without letting Carrey's elastic reactions steal every scene. The movie tanked at the box office and left everyone feeling deflated. Cable TV turned it into a sleepover staple, where that Halloween dance-off scene and the thigh bite became recurring jokes among groups of friends, passing it around like contraband, eventually pulling Carrey's early work back into the spotlight once he became a 90s comedy giant and proving that sometimes the films nobody wanted in theaters become the ones everybody remembers at sleepovers. Hardbodies threw three divorced dudes onto a California beach, thinking money in a rental house would magically attract women. Their pickup lines were clumsy, their attitudes were outdated, and the young women they chased brushed them off with politely bored smiles or outright laughter. Then they meet Scotty Palmer, this broke but effortlessly charming beach bum who seems to know every woman on the shoreline by name. The older guys make him an offer, move into their house for free, and teach them everything he knows about meeting women. Grant Kramer spent every day as Scotty, looking relaxed and unflappable on camera, while privately carrying the pressure of making a low-budget fantasy feel real. Hours in the sun, staying shirtless no matter how hot the sand got or how late the crew worked, then stepping off set to immediately worry about the next scene because the entire illusion depended on him never looking tired. The shoot became this strange test of endurance where Kramer had to glide through crowded party scenes, improvising jokes and flirting in character, then hit emotional beats with his girlfriend Christy that showed he actually had a conscience. Teal Roberts, playing Christy, walked onto a set built around bikinis and easy hookups, but fought to keep her character grounded. She chose small gestures like crossed arms and tight half-smiles to show disapproval. Even when the script glossed over her feelings, the confrontation scenes crushed her emotionally, filmed on the same days as party montages, forcing her to flip from flirtatious banter to real anger with almost no downtime. She became the voice reminding everyone that turning people into transactions has consequences, and years later when audiences rediscovered this beach comedy on late-night cable, that thread of dignity Roberts brought to Christy became the thing that kept the whole film from feeling completely hollow. Summer school found Mark Harmon as Freddie Shoop, this carefree gym teacher whose beach vacation gets canceled when the principal drafts him to teach remedial English to misfits who see summer school as punishment they plan to ignore. Shoop starts out bribing students with field trips and free time, then slowly realizes these kids aren't just lazy, they're discouraged, distracted by tough home lives, or convinced they're too dumb to learn. Harmon had to twist his polished heartthrob image into something looser and more vulnerable, playing early scenes with breezy self-absorption that still hinted at deeper kindness underneath. The classroom sequences meant long days of group setups with Harmon present in almost every shot. Between takes, he joked with the younger cast and ran lines to keep energy up when repetition threatened to flatten performances, becoming the de facto adult center who helped calm nerves. Courtney Thorne-Smith stepped into Pam, a directionless student nursing a crush on Shoop, and the role required walking an incredibly thin line. Meticulous blocking about how close she stood and how quickly Harmon moved away kept scenes from sliding past the film's tone into something darker. Chainsaw and Dave, the horror-loving duo, brought practical effects chaos into the classroom with pranks involving severed limbs and blood packs. Early call times, so prosthetics could be applied, sticky latex and fake blood drying on their skin as they waited for cameras to be ready. Once a gag started, they had one chance to get it right before the set was too messy to reset quickly. Downtime turned into informal special effects school as they asked about materials and techniques, absorbing lessons that fed their genuine love for horror makeup. The film became a sleeper hit that defined the teacher who actually cares genre for the 80s, with Harmon's transformation from reluctant babysitter to invested educator, hitting way harder than anyone expected from a summer comedy about remedial English. Hot Moves followed 4 junior high boys making a summer pact to lose their virginity in Venice Beach, and the film's most memorable moment has Barry chugging an entire bottle of ketchup like it was a cold drink. Michael Zorich playing Barry had to endure multiple takes of that scene during long hot days, and the repeated consumption of ketchup left him with mild stomach discomfort. The dude stuck through the unpleasantness for the sake of a gag that became the film's signature moment. Zorich faced constant pressure to deliver funny performances in a low-budget teen sex comedy shot during blazing Venice summers. Late nights, rehearsing and perfecting comedic timing for scenes that were often flat on paper, improvising to elevate moments and sometimes causing friction with the production schedule. Jill Skeldon brought authentic emotional weight to Julianne, partly because her personal life mirrored her character's romantic struggles during filming. She was quietly dealing with relationship tensions that overlapped with the frustration of delaying intimacy and breakups, blurring the line between acting and reality in ways that strained her off-camera life. Her interactions with Adam Silbar reflected both scripted and unscripted tensions that lent credibility to their storyline but created moments of unease among cast and crew. What could have been another forgettable teen romp became something raw because Skeldon channeled real emotional turmoil into scenes that hit uncomfortably close to home, giving Hot Moves an authenticity that kept it circulating through video stores long after bigger teen comedies faded from shelves. Frankenhooker gave us Jeffrey Franken, this socially awkward New Jersey inventor who loses his fiancée Elizabeth in a lawnmower accident and decides bringing her back from body parts of prostitutes sounds like a solid plan. The result is a hypersexualized monster and enough chaos to make audiences wonder if they were watching comedy or a fever dream. Patty Mullen endured extreme physical demands wrapped in elaborate prosthetics and heavy makeup for hours that made movement difficult and isolated her from the rest of the cast. The heavy costumes limited her ability to perform freely and turned filming days into exhausting marathons. She later said the experience contributed to her avoiding acting afterward, partly due to typecasting and the emotional toll of a production that left the role as both career highlight and bittersweet endpoint. James Lawrence playing Jeffrey clashed with director Frank Henenlotter over the film's tone. Lawrence wanted more improvisation and a grounded portrayal of his obsessive nerdy character, while Henenlotter pushed for campy over-the-top horror comedy. That tension shaped the film's unique balance, though. You can feel the push and pull between grounded desperation and cartoonish excess in every scene. The infamous exploding prostitute scene became one of the most recognized moments, requiring complex special effects and precise stunt coordination across multiple takes. The production team worked to make explosions look believable yet campy, while staying true to the dark comedic style. That scene turned into a viral highlight that endures decades later as the film's calling card, cementing Frankenhooker's place in the pantheon of movies that could only exist in that weird window when cable didn't care what played after midnight. Chopping Mall trapped a group of mall employees throwing an after-hours furniture store party at the Sherman Oaks Galleria when a lightning storm fries the security robots and turns them into laser-wielding killers. Allison Parks, played by Kelly Maroney, and Nerdy Ferdy, played by Tony O'Dell, fresh off head of the class. Watch friends get picked off one by one as the clunky protectors, built from wheelchair frames and roller skates, patrol the empty mall hunting survivors. The production lasted 22 days of overnight shoots, because they could only film when the mall was closed, working with a tiny $800,000 budget that meant Maroney did most of her own stunts crawling through cramped air ducts under hot lights. Director Jim Wynorski openly admitted he cast Maroney because he wanted to date her, replacing Dana Kamel, who reportedly didn't want to do anything sexual in the movie. Barbara Crampton playing Susie got more than she bargained for during the gasoline ignition scene. On take 3, flames shot way higher than planned, scorching her costume and filling her lungs with smoke until her screams stopped being performance and became pure panic. The robots were voiced by Wynorski himself and constructed from conveyor belt pieces and plastic children's toys, designed to look like the robot from the 1954 film Gog. Originally titled Killbots, the film bombed because audiences thought it was related to Transformers, so producers changed the title to Chopping Mall and cut 15 minutes for re-release. VHS turned it into a cult classic, where those malfunctioning killbots on roller skates became more iconic than any sleek CGI that followed, proving that sometimes the cheapest productions with the most absurd premises create the most enduring midnight memories, when audiences can sense the real chaos barely contained behind every sparking circuit. Cheerleader Camp sent the Lindo Valley High Cheer Squad to Camp Hurrah for their annual competition, where Allison, played by Betsy Russell, arrives plagued by nightmares of killing people that have this weird tendency to become real as squad members start dying. Her boyfriend Brent openly flirts with everyone else on the team. Super bitch Susie conveniently commits suicide after hooking up with him. And suddenly, Allison's wondering if she's losing her mind or actually surrounded by a killer. The squad is packed with personalities. Rival bitches Pamela and Teresa, ditzy Bonnie, awkward mascot Corey stuffed into a dismal lizard costume, and fat awful Timmy delivering the kind of sleazy humor that made 80s teen comedies simultaneously iconic and cringeworthy. Bodies start piling up with garden shears and sickles and quick unglamorous kills that director John Quinn stages just to get back to cheerleading routines and squad drama. Betsy Russell's earnest final girl performance stands out amid sketch comedy chaos, while Leif Garrett, the fallen teen idol playing Brent, raps in a cheerleading sequence that should be preserved in a museum of 80s cheese. George Buckflower, as creepy handyman Pop, leers his way through scenes dropping lines about making things harder than a 10-pound bag of nickel jawbreakers, without a shred of self-awareness. The twist reveals Corey as the actual killer, framing Allison for murders throughout camp, with a body count of 9 backloaded into the final act and mostly stripped of gore. The film flopped in theaters, but VHS turned it into cult gold, capturing that specific late 80s moment when slasher films had exhausted every good idea and started eating themselves alive, creating something so earnestly terrible that bad movie lovers adopted it for beer-fueled viewing parties, where the cheerleading rap and dismal lizard mascot became the kind of midnight memories that prove sometimes the dumbest movies leave the deepest impressions. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death sent Dr. Margot Hunt, a feminist professor played by Shannon Tweed, into California's fictional Avocado Jungle on a government mission to negotiate with the Piranha Women, an all-female cannibal tribe threatening America's guacamole supply by luring men to their doom and devouring them after sex. She recruits ditzy student Bunny and chauvinistic guy Jim, played by Bill Maher, for a trek through tribes and scenarios that lampoon both adventure movies and gender politics until they reach Adrienne Barbeau's charismatic tribe leader, and Margot must decide whether to side with the government or embrace the Piranha Women's extreme independence. Tweed twisted her sultry image into deadpan satire, delivering earnest lectures about gender theory in clearly artificial underbrush, while treating every absurd situation with a straight face, hiking over uneven terrain and staging pratfalls, while the contrast between her scholarly dialogue and B-movie surroundings created the film's tone. Maher trudged through warm locations loaded with fake foliage, as Jim, the sleazy guide, constantly reduced from swagger to panic by cannibal feminists, engaging with a level of silliness that contrasted sharply with the cerebral tone he'd later cultivate in talk shows. Adrienne Barbeau's commanding performance as the Piranha leader became legendary, but the filmmakers could only afford her for a single day. She delivered around 17 pages of dialogue in one marathon shoot, embodying tribal authority and ideological debate in hours rather than weeks. That frantic burst gave the film a memorable villain whose charisma anchors the final act, cementing its place as the kind of gloriously weird satire that could only thrive when late-night cable didn't care what played after midnight, as long as it kept insomniacs glued to their screens wondering if they'd actually just watched a movie about feminist cannibals protecting avocado fields.